We are heading towards the end of day one here at Capitol Hill Ocean Week. We have a couple of more remarks that we want to do, a quick sort of special presentation. And I would like to bring to the stage John Armour, the director of NOAA's Office of National Marine Sanctuaries. John is a Rhode Island native whose passion for the ocean began on the shores of Narragansett Bay. He spent more than 2 decades helping protect America's treasured underwater places with NOAA, from coral reefs and whales to shipwrecks and working waterfronts. On his watch, sanctuaries have expanded, and his team has most recently supported the creation of Mallows Bay, Potomac River, Chumash Heritage, Papahanaumokuakea, and Lake Ontario National Marine Sanctuaries. Please welcome to the stage John Armour.
Thanks for that introduction, Joel. Good afternoon, everybody, and I am thrilled to be here for this very, very special announcement. Your National Marine Sanctuary System is over 630,000 square miles of remote areas from American Samoa to the northwestern Hawaiian Islands to the Pacific Northwest and the Florida Keys, from managing corals to historic shipwrecks, and managed with and for and by local communities around the country. The National Marine Sanctuary System is very difficult. It can be very, very challenging for NOAA to manage that awesome responsibility. And so to help NOAA in this responsibility, we have fantastic volunteers. Volunteers are absolutely critical to what we do. We could not possibly manage the National Marine Sanctuary System without our volunteers. Volunteers do everything from staffing visitor centers, conducting critical citizen science, doing beach cleanups. They serve on our advisory councils. There are almost 500 people across the sanctuary system that serve on advisory councils and support sanctuary managers making critical decisions. They hold us accountable. They are critical links to our communities and our stakeholders. Over the last 20 years, 100,000 volunteers contributed over 2 million hours of service to your National Marine Sanctuary System. When you add that all up and you put it into monetary terms, that's equivalent to a contribution of $44 million and nearly 1,000 full-time staff. It is an amazing, amazing contribution. And every year, we have the challenge of trying to recognize one of those volunteers as our Volunteer of the Year. And so this year, to help, we have a secret guest that's going to come out and help introduce this year's Volunteer of the Year for the National Marine Sanctuary System. Dr. Ruth Perry is a former SAC member herself, former member of an advisory council, also a former member of the Board of Trustees of the National Marine Sanctuary Foundation, and she is currently serving as the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Oceans, Fisheries, and Polar Affairs in the Department of State. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Ruth Perry to the podium to introduce this year's Volunteer of the Year.
Okay, it's good to see so many familiar faces, especially in this role. But I was asked to come not because they needed someone to give remarks, but because it was a chance to honor a friend. And so in a way, looking at these bureaucratic remarks that were written, but beautifully done, John, it doesn't describe my friend Shane. When I started in NOAA after coming out of Texas A&M and then soon left to work in the energy industry, immediately collided with the fishing industry in Texas. And that collision was not a negative thing. It was a very powerful thing, because sitting across private sector industries that believe and want to support strong conservation measures was something as unique as the characteristics of the Gulf of America in areas that we grew up, that we cherish, and that we're connected to, like many of you connected to your own sanctuaries. And so one of those first people happened to be a volunteer of the year that I had the honor to celebrate, which is surprising to have two Texas fishermen, but certainly representing the Gulf of America. And he was the loud and active Scott Hickman, Captain Scott Hickman. And behind him was this other really, at first a little bit shy fisherman who was really starting to cut his teeth on policy, regulation, and how do we preserve these sanctuaries because they're so critical to the healthy functioning of the Gulf of America, and how do we balance that with looking at rigs to reefs and all of these things that are happening and the dynamics that are impacting the Gulf ecosystem and fishery at large. And that was Shane. And so in a weird and odd but natural way, Shane and I kind of grew up in the policy world together, and it was an honor to work with him on so many topics. And I'll say topics because there was always the good, bad, and ugly sometimes when you have to bring parties together. But it was a real champion effort that Shane led to bring many of us together and pragmatically figure out how we could advance the expansion of the Flower Garden Banks Sanctuary. And he and I continued to cross. We both served on NOAA's Flower Garden Banks National Marine Sanctuary Advisory Council. I represented energy, and Shane represented both the recreational and commercial fishing communities in coastal Texas and Louisiana. As a captain, Shane provided fishing and research access to the Flower Garden Banks. If you have not visited the Flower Garden Banks, it's not necessarily the closest marine sanctuary, and actually you go through a large amount of energy infrastructure and industrialization, much of that industrialization that it has supported the Gulf communities and legacies and heritage that many of us have if we were born and raised in the Gulf of Mexico. And then you get out to this patch of blue water, and deep below is some of the deepest but most productive sanctuary system in the U.S. And it's really become a model of how we can have coexistence and balance in resource management, and conservation can be a product of that co-use and balance. But getting back to Shane, as a captain, Shane has provided fishing and research access to the Flower Garden Banks, using his expertise to help catch and tag numerous fish species within the sanctuary, such as amberjacks, sharks, and more, so researchers can better track their movements and behaviors. And I will say, the fishing industry captains like Shane, including Scott, who's here in the audience, can really break in early graduates that are studying oceanography, because if you've ever traveled with a fisherman in good days and rough days, you'll certainly get your sea legs. So it was always funny to me because I could point out who the new research scientist was on the pictures they sent me, knowing that they really tested those students as they were taking them out. But everybody had such a rewarding experience being able to do that with fishermen who mentored them through their career, like Shane. Shane is a strong advocate for responsible management of sanctuary fisheries and actively engages with the anglers and community members to share the importance and uniqueness of the Flower Garden Banks and what makes it so special. More so, he served as the Wahoo Working Group Chairman and Advisory Council Subcommittee dedicated to facilitating management actions for sustainable Wahoo catch limits in the Gulf of America. He also contributed to the site's interpretive plan and played a key role in establishing the Friends of Flower Garden Banks, a nonprofit organization dedicated to supporting the sanctuary's mission. And if you don't have a reason yet to visit Galveston, certainly put Galveston on your map, because the product that is going to come being developed by Shane's leadership and Friends of the Flower Garden Banks is certainly going to be a visitor center that's going to be a top destination for that community. Shane's commitment, leadership in the community, and willingness to go above and beyond the responsibilities of an advisory council member are why he was selected as the 2025 Volunteer of the Year, and it's such an honor to have the opportunity to recognize my friend. Thank you.
That was a surprise. Didn't see that one coming. Wow. It's been really cool to learn and explore alongside many of you, and to just see what's out there. I've made that ride home from 100 miles offshore more times than I can count. And it's just so cool that you never know what experience you're going to have when you head out there. But it gives a lot of time to reflect on the day that you had, how you could have done things differently, what you could be working towards the next time, how to recreate that great day you had, how to do that again. But I showed up about 15 years ago as a fisherman to the Sanctuary Advisory Council, and I spent a lot of time learning and asking questions. A huge thank you to the Sanctuary staff at Flower Gardens for answering my questions, helping me understand and look at things in a different way, but to also the Sanctuary Foundation for the support that they've given to explore and understand new ways to look at the sanctuary, the Office of National Marine Sanctuary for all the trouble we put them through in the boundary expansion. It takes years to realize what you become a part of, and it was really hard to develop a coalition of industry and stakeholders during uncertain times to really grow and protect that next important piece of corals and natural bottom, and how we protect the mud flats. Something that simple can be very powerful. And thank you to Ruth for all the time she spent up here working and explaining and working with the industry to be able to get something special done for everyone. It's just been really fascinating to see where this has taken me and to see what I've been able to see out there. We were able to tag, as far as I know, the first scalloped hammerhead in the sanctuary a few years ago, and that was something we've been able to come back to time and again. These special experiences that we want to share with people and to continue to grow and explore inside of our sanctuary. So thank y'all very much.
Okay, folks, thank you for a fabulous, fabulous first day of Capitol Hill Ocean Week 2026. You hung in there. We really appreciate your attention to these incredible keynotes and panelists all day long, both online, here in person, at the Ronald Reagan Building here in Washington, D.C. Today was a remarkable day full of insight and stories, I think, that took us on a journey of discovery below the waves and in some cases below deck. Our speakers invited us, I would say even challenged us, to think of the power of our shared maritime heritage a little differently today and how we might tap it to express a common purpose, especially as we need to understand our world, our ocean, and our waters. All of these incredible places are vital, really, to our definition of life, of who we are, our identity, and where we're going as a nation. I want to thank all of today's moderators and speakers for sharing their perspectives, and of course to our sponsors, including NOAA, Yamaha, the National Marine Manufacturers Association, Perkins Coie, the Marine Mammal Commission, Woods Hole, Orsted, AFCO, the National Park Foundation, and many others. Your generous support has made this conference possible and has kept it free and available to the public, and not just for today, but for tomorrow, and also our Hill Day event on Thursday. I also want to thank our Capitol Hill Ocean Week Advisory Council for really, frankly, months of work. Kathy Green, Lynn Santiago, Holly Pettis, Keith Van Grafflin, Vipe Desai, Dr. Jim Delgado, Nick Rocker, and Dr. Justin Donovan, thank you so much. And congratulations again to Captain Shane Cantrell. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your volunteerism in the sanctuaries and also for connecting the dots for us to help understand both the power of that environment and the local community stewardship that it takes to protect these incredible places. So as we close tonight, I would like to leave you with this thought. Where could the next great ocean discovery come from? What breakthrough will come next that will deepen our understanding and our respect and our care for our ocean planet? Together, let's carry this spirit and this thought forward as we continue Chow tomorrow. Have a good night, and we will see you tomorrow. Thank you so much.